We live in an age where we can stream movies from satellites orbiting Earth, yet struggle to stream understanding between neighbors on the same block. Where we can send robots across the solar system, yet still wrestle with finding direction in our own lives. Where we can predict eclipses centuries into the future, yet so often fail to predict the consequences of our own choices tomorrow. And here's the paradox. With all this knowledge, all this power, all this access to the cosmos, many of us still look up at the night sky and feel small, insignificant, as if our lives couldn't possibly matter against the vast backdrop of the universe. But then, something happens. The moon rises. And not just any moon, on March 25th, we'll witness a full moon. Now, scientifically, there's nothing unusual about that. The moon is simply in opposition to the sun, fully illuminated from our perspective here on Earth. It's geometry, predictable, routine. It happens roughly once a month. And yet, humans have never treated the full moon as routine. For thousands of years, across cultures and continents, people have gathered, reflected, celebrated, even feared the full moon. They saw it as a marker of cycles, a reminder of rhythms larger than themselves, a cosmic mirror of transformation. Why? Why do we, a species that can calculate orbits to 9 decimal places, still find something meaningful in the glow of the moon? Why does this simple play of light and shadow still feel like a cosmic event, a shift in reality? Perhaps it's because, despite all our technology, we remain deeply human. We remain storytellers. We remain seekers of meaning. And the moon's steady, silent, unwavering in its orbit has always offered us a canvas on which to project our hopes, our fears, our intentions. The upcoming full moon on March 25th is no different. Astronomically, it will be ordinary. But psychologically, philosophically, spiritually, it offers us an invitation. An invitation not to change the cosmos, but to change ourselves. Not to expect the universe to shift for us, but to recognize that we are the part of the universe capable of shifting. And maybe that's the true cosmic shift. Not something happening out there in the sky, but something happening in here within us. Now, let's step back for a moment. The moon, this familiar face in our night sky, is not just an ornament. It's not just decoration. It's an active player in the story of Earth. Without the moon, life on this planet might not even exist in the form we know it. Consider this. The moon stabilizes Earth's axial tilt. Without it, our planet would wobble like a poorly thrown football, causing wild swings in climate. Ice ages might come and go unpredictably. Summers could scorch one century and vanish the next. But because the moon steadies us, Earth seasons are relatively stable. Agriculture became possible. Civilizations emerged. In a sense, the moon has been humanity's silent partner all along. And then there are the tides. Twice a day, every day, the moon pulls at our oceans, coaxing them back and forth in a cosmic dance with gravity. Life itself may have first crept from sea to land in rhythm with these tides, drawn by a gravitational invitation billions of years old. So when you stand at the shore and watch the water rise and fall, remember, you're watching the moon's invisible hand at work. And yet, here's where it gets fascinating. The same scientific moon that stabilizes our tilt and pulls our tides has also been the moon of myth, the moon of poetry, the moon of longing and lunacy. Ancient peoples named months after it, measured time by it, told stories around it. The full moon was not just light in the sky, it was light in the psyche. So, what does that tell us? That humans don't live by physics alone. We live by meaning. The moon is a rock orbiting Earth, yes, but it's also a mirror in which we see ourselves. It's both at once. On March 25th, when that full moon rises, nothing magical will happen in the physics. The tides will move as they always do. The orbit will remain steady. The sunlight will reflect, as it always has. But what matters, what always has mattered, is not the physics of the moon, but the choices we make under its glow. And maybe that's the paradox of our age. We have the tools to explain everything, but explanation alone doesn't fulfill us. Data doesn't satisfy wonder. Equations don't feed the soul. We need both. We need science to understand our place in the cosmos, and we need meaning to understand our place in life. So as the full moon approaches, let's not ask, what will the universe do for me? Let's ask, What will I do for the universe that made me possible? That's the shift. That's the transformation. Not a cosmic force beamed down from the heavens, but a human awakening rising up from within. Think of it this way. The full moon has always been there, cycling in and out of shadow every 29.5 days. It didn't wait for telescopes to exist. It didn't wait for poets to write verses or scientists to calculate orbits. The moon has simply been steady, impartial, indifferent. And yet, humans looked up and something extraordinary happened. We noticed. We didn't just see light, we saw meaning. We mapped calendars, built myths, marked rituals, even planned harvests by its glow. We took this cold, cratered rock in space and transformed it into a companion of our imagination. That tells us something profound. The cosmos provides phenomena, humans provide significance. And the meeting of the two, that's culture, that's civilization, that's what it means to be human. But here's the paradox. In an age where we know more about the moon than ever before, its mass, its density, its origin likely from a collision with a Mars-sized object, billions of years ago, we risk losing the very wonder that gave it meaning in the first place. The danger of knowing too much is forgetting how to feel. So, when March 25th comes, and the moon hangs in its fullest light, don't reduce it to a line of data in an astronomy app. Don't flatten it into geometry alone. Instead, let it be what has always been an opportunity, a reminder that while the universe may not care about us, we can care about it. And in doing so, we discover a deeper truth. Meaning is not delivered from above. Meaning is constructed here in the choices we make under that light. And this is where transformation enters. Not as a mystical beam of lunar energy, but as the recognition that the same universe capable of sculpting the moon is also sculpting us. That we are participants, not spectators. That to live without intention is to orbit without purpose. So here's the question worth asking. When the moon rises full on that night, what will it reflect back to you? Will you see just craters and reflected sunlight? Or will you see a mirror of your own potential, whole, luminous, unbroken, despite the scars? Because the moon has scars, entire oceans of them, what astronomers call maria, the dark plains left by ancient impacts. Yet even with those wounds, it shines. Maybe that's the lesson. Purposeful living doesn't come from being unscarred. It comes from choosing to radiate anyway. And if the moon can do it for billions of years, maybe, just maybe, so can we. When you look at the moon, you're not just looking at reflected sunlight, you're looking at time itself frozen in stone. Those craters, those plains, those scars, they're stories of what the moon has endured, billions of years of impacts, and yet it remains, and maybe that's why it calls to us so deeply, because we too are scarred, not by asteroids, but by choices, by regrets, by losses, by mistakes. We carry craters on the inside, and like the moon, we can't erase them, but we can illuminate them. That's what Reflection Island, and I don't mean the kind that bounces light off rock. I mean the kind that asks, who am I when I'm not scrolling, when I'm not performing, when I'm not distracted? Who am I when I'm still? Stillness is underrated. We live in a culture that rewards velocity, faster devices, quicker responses, constant productivity. But physics reminds us velocity without direction is chaos. Reflection is how we find direction. Think about this. Astronauts who traveled to the moon described something extraordinary when they looked back at Earth. It wasn't the moon that shook them most. It was that pale blue dot hanging in the black, fragile, and finite. They called it the overview effect, a shift in consciousness that comes from seeing your world whole. But here's the secret. You don't have to leave Earth to experience that. Reflection is your personal overview effect. When you pause, when you sit in stillness, you see your own life whole, not as fragments of busyness, but as a trajectory. And like Earth, that trajectory is fragile, finite, worth protecting. So, as the full moon approaches, here's the invitation. Carve out stillness, step outside, breathe. Let the light that traveled from the sun, bounced off the moon, and fell to Earth touch your face. And let that be a reminder that you are part of a much larger cycle. That your heartbeat is a rhythm in the cosmic symphony. That your stillness is not emptiness, it is calibration. Because without calibration, even the most advanced spacecraft will miss its mark. And without reflection, even the most gifted human will drift. The moon doesn't drift. It locks its face toward Earth in a steady rhythm, orbit after orbit. Maybe it's teaching us something. Constancy is born not from rushing, but from alignment. So, in the days leading up to March 25th, find your alignment. Not by adding more noise, but by listening to the quiet signals within. Because in that stillness, you just might hear the universe whisper back. Reflection alone is not enough. A mirror shows you where you are, but it doesn't move you forward. For that, you need intention. Now, let's be clear. Setting an intention isn't about making a wish and hoping the universe answers like a cosmic vending machine. That's not how physics works, and it's not how life works. The moon doesn't grant favors, gravity doesn't bend because we ask nicely. But here's the truth. The universe responds to action. And intention, at its best, is the blueprint for action. Think of it this way. When NASA sends a spacecraft to Mars, they don't just launch it and say, let's hope it gets there. They plot a trajectory. They calculate gravity assists. They burn fuel at precise moments to stay on course. Every adjustment is intentional. And without that intention, the mission fails. Your life is no different. Without intention, you drift. With intention, you navigate. So, when you set an intention under the light of the full moon, don't think of it as magic. Think of it as navigation. You are setting coordinates. You are saying, this is the trajectory I want my life to follow. And once those coordinates are set, your daily choices become the course corrections that keep you aligned. But here's the challenge. Intentions must be clear. If a spacecraft's coordinates are off by even 1 degree at launch, it will miss its destination by millions of miles. Likewise, vague intentions lead to vague outcomes. I want to be happy is not an intention. It's a feeling, and intention is specific. I want to call my family once a week. I want to finish writing my book this year. I want to move my body for 30 minutes each day. These are trajectories you can measure. And when you stack enough of them together, you've reshaped an orbit. And the science backs this up. Psychologists call it the intention-behavior gap, the space between what we say we'll do and what we actually do. But studies show that when we articulate intentions clearly, write them down, and tie them to specific actions, the gap narrows. The mind, like a spacecraft, responds to guidance. So on March 25th, don't just admire the moonlight. Use it. Let it be a reminder that orbits are not random. They are the product of forces, of trajectories, of choices. Set your intention, name your trajectory, and then day by day, act like the astronaut of your own life. Because while the universe doesn't guarantee you'll reach your destination, it does guarantee this: without intention, you won't. But here's the thing about setting a new trajectory. You can't plot a course forward if you're still tethered to the wrong orbit. The universe teaches us this all the time. Planets, moons, comets, all of them are locked in gravitational relationships. Some of those relationships are stable. Earth's orbit around the sun, life depends on it. The moon's orbit around Earth, it steadies our tilt, drives our tides, anchors our nights. But not every orbit is worth keeping. Sometimes objects are trapped by forces that drain them. A comet caught too close to Jupiter may have its path distorted, pulled endlessly until it breaks apart. A satellite that doesn't adjust its course eventually burns up in Earth's atmosphere. Staying in the wrong orbit can be fatal. And humans are no different. We, too, get stuck in orbits, patterns of thought, habits of behavior, cycles of fear or doubt that circle endlessly, consuming energy without giving anything back. We call them routines. We call them comfort zones. But sometimes they're not comfort at all, they're captivity. So the question becomes, what orbits are you stuck in that no longer serve you? What gravitational pulls are keeping you circling the same ground when you could be exploring new frontiers? The science of escape velocity is simple. To break free from a planet's pull, you must generate enough energy to overcome gravity. And the same applies to our lives. To release old patterns, you need the energy of awareness, the thrust of courage, the burn of choice. And yes, It's hard. Astronauts don't reach orbit without fire. Rockets don't glide into space without shaking the ground beneath them. Breaking free takes effort, and sometimes it looks messy. But that's the cost of liberation. Turbulence before transcendence. So maybe this March 25th, under the steady glow of the moon, ask yourself, what orbit am I ready to leave? What old belief, outdated story, or worn-out habit am I ready to release? And what new trajectory will I claim once I'm free? Because the moon itself is proof that breaking free is possible. Most scientists agree it was born out of a collision Earth struck by a Mars-sized body billions of years ago. Debris scattered, gravity sculpted, and out of chaos came a companion. The moon exists because something once shattered its old orbit. So don't fear the break. Sometimes the collision is what creates the companion. Sometimes the ending is what makes way for the light. And maybe, just maybe, liberation is not about losing, but about becoming. If you want proof of how extraordinary this March 25th full moon is, don't just look up. Look down, look around, look at the only world we know that cradles life. Think about it. In all our exploration of the solar system, all our robotic scouts on Mars, Venus, Titan, Europa, not one has revealed landscapes that rival Earth's living beauty. Rivers that carve valleys, forests that breathe, atmospheres that dance with light, a biosphere so rich that it takes your breath away, literally, because without Earth's atmosphere, you'd have no breath to give. And yet, here we are, living in it every day, so accustomed to its miracles that we forget to notice. We walk past trees without remembering that they are ancient machines, taking carbon dioxide and converting it into oxygen, running photosynthesis with more elegance than any power plant we've ever designed. This is communion, not in the mystical sense, but in the most grounded one. A recognition that you are not separate from the Earth. You are an expression of it. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the water in your cells, all borrowed from the planet beneath your feet. You don't live on Earth, you live of Earth. And here's the paradox. We dream of colonizing Mars while sometimes failing to fully inhabit Earth. We crave distant adventures while neglecting the sanctuary we already have. So, when the moonlight floods the landscape on March 25th, take it as an invitation not just to look outward, but to look inward and downward, to reconnect with the ground you walk on. Kick off your shoes. Feel the soil, the grass, the sand. Let yourself remember that you are part of this planet's story, a chapter written in flesh and consciousness. Astronauts who've traveled into orbit speak of something called the overview effect. From space, Earth looks fragile, a shimmering blue marble wrapped in the thinnest veil of atmosphere. Borders disappear, conflicts fade. What's left is awe. Awe at the improbability, awe at the beauty, awe at the interconnectedness. But you don't have to launch on a rocket to experience this. Communion with nature is your personal overview effect. Step into a forest, and you'll feel it. Watch the tides the moon pulls, and you'll see it. Breathe deeply of the air trees have cleaned for you, and you'll live it. Because to commune with Earth is to remember that this isn't just your home, it's your mother, your partner, your only vessel in the cosmic sea. And to neglect it is not only unwise, it's suicidal. So let the March full moon illuminate not just the sky, but your relationship with the ground beneath you. Because to care for Earth is not just an act of environmentalism, it's an act of cosmic citizenship. Let's pause and think about something both simple and staggering. You are the universe, caring for itself. Every atom in your body, carbon, oxygen, iron, was forged in the core of a star billions of years ago. Those stars exploded, scattering their elements across the galaxy, until eventually they coalesced into this planet, this biosphere, and finally into you. You are, quite literally, stardust that has taken the form of flesh and thought. So when you nurture yourself, when you rest, when you eat well, when you breathe deeply, when you move your body, you are honoring that lineage. You are tending to a star-born being, entrusted with awareness, and yet, how often do we treat ourselves as expendable? We run ourselves ragged. We ignore our bodies until they fail, our minds until they fracture. We talk about burning out as if it were a badge of honor. But physics reminds us, even stars cannot burn forever without fuel. They collapse, they fade, they die. And if you fail to replenish your own energy, you will too. Self-care is not selfish. It is maintenance of the cosmos's rarest phenomenon, life aware of itself. Think about the astronauts preparing for missions to the International Space Station. Before they launch, every detail of their health is monitored: blood pressure, bone density, mental readiness, because when you're carrying the responsibility of life in an environment that doesn't forgive mistakes, neglect is not an option. And yet here on Earth, in an environment that is equally precious, we sometimes neglect ourselves as though we were infinite. The March 25th full moon offers a reminder that cycles matter. The moon waxes and wanes. It glows and recedes. It teaches us that light is not constant, but it always returns. Maybe self-care is the same. It's not about being at full brightness all the time. It's about honoring your cycle, resting when you must, shining when you can, and knowing that both are part of the same orbit. So as that moonlight washes over you, ask yourself, how am I nurturing the stardust I have been given? Am I fueling my body with respect? Am I tending to my mind with patience? Am I allowing myself the grace of rest so that I can return to radiance? Because if you don't care for yourself, how can you care for others? If you let your own star collapse, how will you light the path for anyone else? The universe entrusted you with awareness. Take care of it. Because when you nurture yourself, you nurture the cosmos's rarest gift, a mind capable of wonder and a heart capable of love. We live in a culture that worships control. We plan, schedule, predict, and measure. We build systems to eliminate uncertainty, as if uncertainty itself were a flaw in the universe. And yet, the deeper we look into the cosmos, the more we realize that uncertainty is not an exception, it is the rule. Even the laws of physics, as firm as they seem, are painted with uncertainty. Quantum mechanics tells us that particles don't exist in definite states until they are measured. Chaos theory reminds us that small differences in initial conditions can lead to vast differences in outcomes. The cosmos is not a machine that runs with perfect predictability. It's a symphony with room for improvisation. And so, surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It's the recognition that while you can control your thrust, you cannot control the gravity that surrounds you. While you can aim your spacecraft, you must also respect the forces that guide its trajectory. Think about the Voyager missions launched in 1977. Those spacecraft didn't reach the outer planets by brute force alone. They used gravity-assist, carefully timed flybys that allowed the pull of one planet to slingshot them toward the next. Without surrendering to the guidance of gravity, they would never have reached the edge of interstellar space. Maybe our lives work the same way. Maybe progress isn't about controlling everything, but about knowing when to steer and when to be carried, when to fire the rockets and when to let gravity guide. This doesn't mean passivity. The Voyagers didn't drift randomly. They had a mission, a destination, an intention, but they succeeded because they allowed the cosmos to help them. They surrendered to the forces bigger than themselves, and in doing so, they went farther than they ever could alone. So here's the paradox. Surrender is not the opposite of strength. Surrender is the completion of strength. It's knowing that your willpower, while vital, is not the only power at play, that you are part of a larger system, ecological, social, cosmic, and your greatest progress comes when you learn to move with it, not against it. As the March 25th full moon rises, let it remind you of that balance. The moon does not fight gravity, it dances with it. Its orbit is not an act of control, but of harmony. And maybe that's the invitation for us as well. To stop clenching so tightly, to trust the forces that hold us, and to surrender just enough to be carried forward. Because sometimes letting go is the most powerful choice of all. If you study humanity across cultures and centuries, you'll notice something striking. No civilization has ever lived without rituals. From the earliest fire circles to the most elaborate temples, from the quiet act of journaling to the roar of a stadium anthem, rituals have always been with us. Why? Because humans are meaning makers. We live in time, but we don't just pass through it, we mark it. Birthdays, Anniversaries, graduations, New Year's, none of these are required by physics. Time flows whether we celebrate it or not. But by pausing to mark a moment, by creating a ritual, we give structure to the chaos of existence. We declare this matters. And here's the thing, rituals don't change the moon. Lighting a candle doesn't alter orbital mechanics. Burning a slip of paper won't shift gravity. But rituals change us. They calibrate our minds. They focus our attention. They remind us of who we are and what we value. Think of astronauts before a launch. They follow a ritual not because the rocket cares, but because they do. The sequence, the order, the repetition, it grounds them in discipline, steadies their nerves, focuses their intent. The ritual doesn't make the rocket fly, but it prepares the humans who must guide it. So when you create a ritual under the light of a full moon, whether that's writing down intentions, meditating, sharing a meal with loved ones, or simply standing in silence, you are not moving the cosmos. You are moving yourself. You are aligning your inner orbit with the rhythms of the outer world. And maybe that's the real point. Rituals are bridges. They link the vast cycles of the cosmos, the waxing and waning of the moon, the turning of the seasons, the rotation of the earth, to the intimate cycles of our lives, beginnings, endings, transformations. Without rituals, time feels like an endless blur. With rituals, time feels like a story. And humans need stories as much as we need air, because stories tell us not just what is happening, but why it matters. So don't dismiss ritual as superstition. Respect it as psychology. Honor it as culture. Embrace it as a way of saying, I am part of this dance. I see the rhythm. I choose to move with it. The moon doesn't need your ritual. But maybe you do. Let's talk about gratitude. On the surface, it sounds simple. Say, thank you. Appreciate what you have. Count your blessings. But in reality, gratitude is not a courtesy. It's a lens. And changing the lens changes the entire universe, you see. Think about astronomy. For most of human history, we thought Earth was the center of everything. That was our frame, our lens. Then Copernicus shifted it. Galileo confirmed it. Suddenly we weren't the center, we were part of something bigger. That shift in perspective didn't change the cosmos, but it changed us. It humbled us, it expanded us. Gratitude works the same way. It doesn't change the events of your life, but it changes your relationship to them. It reframes the story. Instead of focusing on what's missing, it highlights what's present. Instead of scarcity, abundance. Instead of complaint, connection. And science supports this. Neuroscientists have found that gratitude literally rewires the brain. Regularly practicing gratitude activates regions associated with dopamine and serotonin, the same chemicals that regulate mood. In other words, gratitude isn't just poetic, it's physiological. Your brain, like the universe, responds to perspective. Now, here's the cosmic part. Gratitude isn't limited to people or possessions. You can practice gratitude at the planetary scale. Be grateful for oxygen, produced by trees and algae, delivered to your lungs free of charge. Be grateful for sunlight, photons traveling 8 minutes across space to warm your skin. Be grateful for gravity, the invisible tether that holds oceans, atmospheres, and even you in place. These forces don't ask for your thanks. They don't need it. But you do. Because gratitude orients you. It places you back in context. It reminds you that you are not the author of existence, but a participant in it blessed beyond measure just to be here at all. So when the full moon rises on March 25th, try this. Instead of asking what it can do for you, thank it for what it already does. Thank it for steadying Earth's tilt, for guiding the tides, for lighting our nights. And while you're at it, thank the atoms in your bones, the heartbeat in your chest, the improbable sequence of ancestors that led to your life. Because gratitude, like astronomy, is the art of seeing clearly. And when you see clearly, the universe feels less like a void and more like a gift. So here we are, a full moon rising on March 25th. A simple event, astronomically speaking sunlight, reflected off a rocky companion 240,000 miles away. Nothing unusual, and yet everything unusual, because it is we who give it meaning. We reflected under its glow, recognizing that stillness is not idleness but calibration. We set intentions, understanding that trajectories must be chosen, not drifted. We released old orbits, learning that escape velocity requires courage. We communed with Earth, our only oasis in the cosmic dark. We nurtured ourselves, realizing that caring for stardust is caring for the universe itself. We surrendered, learning that guidance is not weakness, but partnership with forces larger than us. We embraced rituals, not for the moon's sake, but for our own orientation. We radiated gratitude, shifting perspective as surely as Copernicus shifted the cosmos. And now the question becomes, what do we do with all of this? Because knowledge without action is trivia. Reflection without movement is stasis. Gratitude without responsibility is sentiment. The universe does not need us. Stars will burn. Galaxies will spin. Physics will proceed with or without human witnesses. But we need us. We need each other. And we need to live as if this improbable experiment of consciousness, this flicker of awareness on a pale blue dot, actually matters. So here's the paradox to carry with you. You are small, and yet you are significant. You are fleeting, and yet you are timeless. You are fragile, and yet you carry the resilience of stars in your bones. The full moon on March 25th is not a cosmic shift in the heavens. It is an invitation to shift here, in ourselves, in our choices, in our orbits, to live not as accidents of chemistry, but as authors of meaning. And maybe that's the greatest gift the universe has given us. Not certainty, not control, but the freedom to choose how we will live under its indifferent stars. So the question I leave you with is this. When the light of this full moon touches your face, what will it illuminate in you? Will it find someone drifting in old patterns, or someone steering with intention? Will it reveal a life lived by default, or a life lived on purpose? Because in the end, the universe doesn't care if you live with purpose. But you should. And if you do, if enough of us do, then perhaps, just perhaps, this pale blue dot will shine not just with reflected sunlight, but with the radiance of a species that finally learned how to matter. Here's the humbling truth. When Voyager 1 turned its camera back toward Earth in 1990, it captured an image we now call the pale blue dot. From 4 billion miles away, our planet was less than a pixel, suspended in a shaft of sunlight. And Carl Sagan reminded us, everything we love, everyone we know, every triumphant tragedy in human history played out on that mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. That image changed us because it forced us to see Earth not as vast, but as fragile, not as the center of the universe, but as one world among billions. And yet, that very smallness became a source of significance. Because if this tiny pixel is the only home we know, then how we live here, how we treat each other, how we care for our planet, how we use the brief gift of consciousness becomes the most important thing in the universe. The March 25th full moon is your pale blue dot moment, scaled down to the intimate. It is the reminder that you can hold two truths at once, that you are small and that you matter, that you are fragile and that you are strong, that you cannot control the cosmos, but you can control your orbit within it. And that's the invitation, to live as if your choices ripple beyond you, because they do. To live as if gratitude, intention, reflection, and care are not luxuries, but responsibilities, because they are. To live as if you are not apart from the universe, but a piece of it, awake, aware, luminous, because you are. So, when that full moon rises, don't just admire it, answer it. Let it challenge you to release what no longer serves you, to set a trajectory worthy of your brief orbit on this earth, to live with a purpose that outshines the scars. Because when you do, you are not just surviving the cosmos, you are participating in it. You are the universe, conscious of itself, radiating meaning back into the dark. And maybe, just maybe, that is the greatest cosmic shift of all. And here's the thing, most of us go through life thinking our choices are isolated, that our work, our kindness, our curiosity, or even our inattention barely matters in the grand ledger of the universe. But the universe doesn't work that way. The cosmos is a network of interactions. From the smallest particles in your fingertips to the spiral arms of galaxies that spin silently over billions of years. Every action, no matter how microscopic, resonates. Ripples spread, energy transfers, and suddenly, in ways we cannot always perceive, you are shaping your world. Look at the stars. They are ancient nuclear furnaces, burning for millions, sometimes billions of years, to produce the elements that make up you, me, this very room, and everything you call home. Iron in your blood, carbon in your body, calcium in your bones, all forged in the death throes of stars long gone. And somehow, here you are conscious of it. You are the universe observing itself. That, my friends, is extraordinary. And yet, in the same moment, we are capable of incredible contradictions. Humanity wields technologies that can map the genome, explore the outer reaches of the solar system, and decode the cosmic microwave background, but we still struggle with division, ignorance, and neglect of our own planet. It is a paradox as vast as the space between galaxies. Our capacity for enlightenment and for blindness exists in the same mind. This is where the March 25th full moon becomes more than just a spectacle of light in the night sky. It is a mirror. It reflects not only what is above, but what is within. It reminds us that light, even in a universe filled with darkness, is not just something we observe, it is something we generate. Every choice to care, to listen, to learn, to act, that is our light. That is our contribution to the cosmos. So, in the coming days, consider what it means to be conscious of your orbit, to set intentions that matter, not because they are trendy or mystical or fleeting, but because they shape the trajectory of your life, your community, and your planet. Reflect on what patterns you carry that no longer serve you, the fears, the doubts, the resentments, and release them. Do it not as a ritual of superstition, but as an act of reasoned liberation. Science shows that human attention is finite, so direct it toward growth, toward love, toward understanding, and yes, marvel at nature. Walk among the trees, watch the tides, feel the pull of the moon and the warmth of the Sunday. Let yourself be reminded that your life is part of a network older and larger than your imagination. Because in that network, the act of observing matters, the act of engaging matters, the act of nurturing, of protecting, of reaching higher matters. The full moon on March 25th is not a magic wand. It is a teacher. And the lesson is this: we are, all of us, participants in the cosmic story. The story does not write itself. It waits for us to add our chapters. Every decision, every action, every thought, every word is a starburst in the darkness. Some may fade quickly, others may shine for centuries, but all are meaningful. So when the moon rises, let it remind you, you are not incidental. You are the culmination of billions of years of cosmic evolution. You are matter that has become conscious. You are energy that can reflect, create, and inspire. You are, in essence, a universe looking back at itself, asking the same questions it has always asked. What can I do with this chance? How can I be a force for life, light, and understanding in a cosmos that does not require it yet awaits it? The answer is simple, yet profound. Be aware, be curious, be kind. Act with intention. Live as if the universe is listening, because it is, in every subtle, beautiful, and infinite way. And maybe, just maybe, if enough of us answer that call, the cosmos will look back at this pale blue dot and say, yes, here, on this small planet, conscious beings arose who understood their place, who embraced responsibility, and who dared to make life better, not just for themselves, but for all of us. So tonight, look up. Look not just with your eyes, but with your mind and your heart. And in the glow of that full moon, remember, the universe is vast, and you are small, but the significance of your life, your choices, your light, is boundless. Because the cosmos does not merely exist. It waits. And in its waiting, it calls on us to rise, to reflect, and to become the best version of the universe we can possibly be. And yet, for all our knowledge, for all our telescopes and particle colliders, we are still learning how to be human. We can track asteroids across millions of kilometers of space, yet many of us fail to track the trajectory of our own lives. We can model the evolution of galaxies over billions of years, yet we struggle to understand the consequences of our actions on the generations we will never meet. Isn't that remarkable? That we are both the most enlightened creatures to ever walk this planet and, at the same time, often blind to the most basic truths about ourselves? It is a paradox worthy of the universe itself, and perhaps it is here, in this tension between knowledge and understanding, between seeing and acting, that the true beauty of human life emerges. Look at the cosmos. Every star, every planet, every black hole is a story of survival, of energy balancing against entropy, of matter finding patterns in chaos. The universe does not waste energy. Every photon, every particle has its role. Every reaction, its consequence. And here we are, part of this cosmic chain reaction, carrying the potential to either harm or heal, to build or to destroy, to ignore or to understand. This is why the March 25th full moon matters, not because it holds magical power, but because it reminds us of cycles, lunar cycles, life cycles, cycles of learning and unlearning. The moon does not ask us to worship it. It asks us to observe, to reflect, to align our actions with something larger than ourselves. Science teaches us that observation changes reality. The very act of looking at the universe changes how we perceive it. Perhaps in observing the moon, in contemplating the cosmos, we change ourselves. And let us not shy away from responsibility. Responsibility is not a burden, it is an acknowledgement of connection. Every choice you make, from the words you speak, to the resources you consume, to the compassion you extend, creates waves that spread through the social, ecological, and cosmic fabric. You are not isolated. You are a node in a network that spans the Earth, and if you allow your imagination to wander, the stars themselves. Consider for a moment the elements within you: oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, forged in ancient stars, scattered across the galaxy, coalescing over eons to form the complex chemistry that sustains life. You are a product of cosmic evolution, yes, but evolution is not passive. Evolution acts through interaction, through adaptation, through choice, and so must we. If we are to honor the billions of years of stellar labor that produced our bodies, then we must act with intention, with curiosity, and with care. And that care extends beyond ourselves. It extends to the Earth, our fragile, pale blue dot suspended in the void, a singular oasis of life in a universe mostly barren. Carl Sagan once reminded us how vulnerable we are, how every human achievement, every civilization exists on a mote of dust floating in a sunbeam. And yet, that vulnerability is not a reason for despair. It is a call to action, to cherish what we have, to protect it, and to recognize that our actions, even small ones, ripple outward. We are in a moment in history unlike any before. Technology has given us unprecedented power to communicate across continents in an instant, to manipulate matter at the atomic level, to peer into the very origins of the universe. And yet, this power comes with responsibility. Knowledge without action is wasted. Insight without compassion is meaningless. To gaze at the stars is not enough. We must also care for the world beneath them. So what does it mean to live consciously in the shadow of this full moon? To embrace the cosmic shift it represents? It means choosing curiosity over ignorance, empathy over indifference, and action over passivity. It means recognizing that your life, your choices, and your energy are part of a larger symphony, one that includes both the vastness of the cosmos and the intimacy of human connection. And perhaps most importantly, it means understanding that while the universe is indifferent, we are not. The universe does not dictate morality, purpose, or value. We do. And in that realization lies both freedom and responsibility. We are free to explore, to create, to imagine, and to connect. We are responsible for the consequences of those actions, for the legacy we leave, for the light we contribute to the darkness. So tonight, under the glow of the full moon, I invite you to reflect on your place in this vast, magnificent, and sometimes perplexing universe. Think about the stars that gave you life, the energies that sustain it, and the connections that define it. Recognize that while you are small in scale, your potential is vast in impact. And remember this: the cosmos did not create you to be passive. It created you to observe, to wonder, to care, and to act. Because in the end, we are all storytellers. And the story of the universe is still being written one choice, one action, one moment of awareness at a time. Embrace your role. Embrace your responsibility. Embrace your light. Let the full moon remind you not of what you cannot do, but of what you can. And as you move forward, carry this thought with you. Every time you look up at the night sky, every time you feel the pull of the moon, every time you reflect on the intricate web of life, remember that you are both observer and participant. You are stardust, consciousness, and energy, alive at a time when the universe can reflect upon itself through you. Let that knowledge guide you, inspire you, and compel you to act. Because the cosmos, for all its vastness, has entrusted you with one of its most remarkable gifts: the power to be fully, consciously, wonderfully human. So tonight, as the full moon rises and casts its silver glow across the world, pause for a moment. Consider that every atom in your body was forged in the heart of a star billions of years ago, meaning, quite literally, you are made of stardust. And yet, stardust with consciousness. Stardust that can look up at the cosmos and wonder, question, and even care. Isn't that remarkable? That something so fleeting, so small in the grand theater of the universe can pause and reflect on the universe itself? That is our privilege. That is our responsibility. We may not control the cosmos, but we do control how we navigate our own small corner of it. We can choose curiosity over ignorance, understanding over fear, collaboration over division, and stewardship over neglect. We can shine, not by exploding like a supernova, but by consistently showing up, asking questions, and acting with awareness. So, the next time you look up at the night sky, remember, the universe is vast, indifferent, and astonishing. And within that vastness, you are here, alive, conscious, capable of wonder, and capable of action. That is not a small thing. That is everything. And if we carry that knowledge forward, if we embrace it with humility, courage, and a sense of responsibility, we honor both the cosmos and ourselves. Because in the end, the universe is not asking for our approval. It is asking for our awareness. It is asking us to participate in the story of life. And the story is far richer when we do. So go ahead, look up, wonder, learn, care, and in doing so, leave the universe just a little bit brighter than you found it.